and this is as a show we got to talk about this. I think at some point, look at your champions. Look at your champions. Look at how many champions are former WWE talent. Now, again, you got to build your roster on some former WWE talent, but I mean, putting them over outside of Okada and Garcia and Takeshita and Mariah May, everyone else are WWE people. The idea that the Hurt Syndicate wins that quickly over homegrown talent like Private Party, they're not over. Don't get me wrong, they're not over. But the point is that for the Hurt Syndicate to win like that, crushing those kids, is that good for business? Is it really good for business to do that? I mean, so that in other words, your homegrown AEW talent ain't shit. So you squash them like a preliminary match.
Well, they're getting over in the Death Rider story. Hello.
You deserve that, Simon.
Where's the lie?
Well, speaking of the tag title match, we did see it last night. The Hurt Syndicate, the new tag team champions. What was your biggest takeaway from the AEW tag title change?
Well, you started talking about it, Jay Hood. So I guess my response to that is that good for business? I mean, it can't be worse than whatever Private Party was doing.
No, that's not right. That's not right, Gabe. Look, I wouldn't have given Private Party the tag team championships. It's almost like,
well, but they were going to break up if they didn't win.
Yeah.
But that's the issue. That should have been such a moment. Like going back to that first Dynamite, they beat the Bucks, like they were getting over. Then we forget about them. Them winning should have been such a moment. And then we just sort of forgot about it. And it's like, oh crap, they still have the belts. Like, all right, you got to drop them tonight.
That's so bad. If you're trying to say we're All Elite Wrestling and we're different than the competition, we're the challenger brand. You know what Tony Khan said? Oh my God, I got WWE guys. I got to put titles on them. I mean, listen, and again, I want to make sure it's clear. Private Party, I've told you guys, I don't get it. I understand the gimmick, but when they take a microphone, it doesn't convince me. It doesn't move me. It doesn't make me, I want them to win or lose. It's indifference, which is the worst, right? But the way they got crushed, the way they got smashed, not just on Wednesday, but the week before in that 6-man, where MVP is wrestling. Hold on a second. MVP hasn't wrestled in years. All of a sudden, wrestling like he's been there every week. That also was bullshit. Because if you're a manager, you're supposed to wrestle like a manager. He's doing balling like it's 2007 against those kids. And they crushed them in the 6-man. So from a wrestling standpoint, from a story standpoint, it was terrible. It was bad for Private Party. And for these two to be tag team champions, like they need titles to get over. What does that prove?
But I think that's the point, like, in showing the shift in AEW. I remember when they announced they signed Private Party, I had no idea who they were. And they were doing those little, like, hey, so-and-so is All Elite during BTEs. And showing some clips of them and seeing that Gin and Juice finish, I'm like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. And then we got the Bucks match, and it was going to be about wrestling. And they got over that way, and then they tried to do too much. And like you said, they give them a microphone, and that's where we are today. And that's the issue.
Well, again, like the best they've probably been, because they can go. Like, I don't think you can be in AEW if you can't, right? So it's hard to separate yourself that way now.
This
right?
This guy's thinking about Peter Avalon.
I was thinking of what name to throw out there. No one came to mind.
Peter
Avalon's not there anymore. Come on, man.
Jeff Jarrett.
the librarian. Yeah, okay. All right, Jeff Jarrett. Fair enough. But for the most part, I would say, like, you have to be able to go in the ring. And that's the one thing because they sold their asses off last night, too. Like, they sold like the rent was due. And it was, they did a great job, I think, of putting over the Hurt Syndicate. But yeah, like the best stuff they did with the microphone was probably when they were with Matt Hardy.
I think that's right. But then, and
that's not good for anyone.
Right? So I just think that, when we look at this roster and how many WWE talents are on there, I know it was, you got to give Sasha Banks a chance. And now it's so funny. If you look through her mentions, it's like Mercedes Moné, I got all these championships, and someone in their messages will be, I wish you were back in WWE. I miss Sasha Banks. Well, you can't miss me. I'm right here. I'm still wrestling. I just have a different name. But to the wrestling fan, they're like, wait, I miss you. Where have you been? I'm on TBS every week. What do you mean? The weird wrestling fan, right? but then John Moxley on the top. We like Moxley. I know, Gabe, you're a big Moxley guy. I got no problem with him being champion, but I'm just saying that a lot of the champions now are WWE guys. Instead of really pushing Garcia to the top or Takeshita to the top or Ospreay, hopefully that'll be the case in 2025.
Well, the other thing also from the title change, I heard you guys talk last week about the AEW issues and the word continuity. Private Party was part of the Death Rider thing, and they were the guys that were underachieving. And I remember when the storyline started, we talked about, well, they're positioning all these young guys. They're going to end up as the champions, all these faces, the Garcia, the Private Party, so it'll work out. But now they're just not a part of that story anymore. Like, they're not trying to save AEW. They're not trying to do stuff with the Death Riders. They're just doing their own thing, and therefore they didn't get over from this result. Like, they might as well have been swimming nunchucks like Johnny Silver. Like, at this point, like, what was the point of that early involvement to get here to then be misused?
Yeah, well, again, I think that's just the whole botching of the Death Riders thing, because the Death Riders thing had so much potential, and again, they ended up in a 6-man tag with something they should be trying to kill in the Learning Tree.